What is up, everyone? We're back Saturday, February 22nd. We're steamrolling towards March. We got, I think, three more of these Saturdays, Gav, until we will be heading to Vegas for conference tournament week for the major conferences at least. What's going on with you? How was your week? How are you feeling today?
Yeah, week was pretty decent. Pretty greasy slate today. But the final big Saturday of February, that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks in the face this morning. So yeah, kind of bittersweet. Only a couple more, but excited to get into this one.
Yeah, if you don't follow Gav, he had a great thread on Twitter yesterday for the games today with some bets. We'll touch on a couple bets here as we go through. We were just talking about it before we went live, but yeah, this is an interesting slate. It's a different type of Saturday slate. We don't have Broom, we don't have Cooper Flag, we don't have Kalkbrenner.
We don't have 1,000 guys in play.
We don't have Cam Jones. So it's a different type of slate because the studs aren't the usual guys that we have. Before we get started, if you want to join us for the stretch run at Run Pure, just go to runpuresports.com. Use code RPS15. You can do a college hoops only membership. We have that offer now. We've got a bunch of guys in our Discord that are college hoops only. We have a great Discord. We're gonna have projections for all three slates today. We'll have cores up on the site. Gavin will give his tournament plays on the site too. So yeah, let's dive into it. We got 10 games here, Gavin, in three different windows. It looks like 4 games in the noon Eastern window, 2 in the 1 p.m. Eastern, and then 4 between 2 and 2:15. I actually hate that they have that like 2:15 lock, but I get it for TV. We start off with a really good real life game, really important real life game. Not the best for DFS, obviously. Tennessee at Texas A&M. I'm seeing A&M minus 2.5 here, Gav. 130.5 total. My only news here: Akpara popped up as questionable. Just saw from Jordan Majeski on Discord though that he was cleared to play. So we have him projected in. You can see here we are sharing our projections page as it stands right now. And as Gavin alluded to earlier, it's going to be a lot of this. Guys projecting for 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, not 4.5 plus like we usually have on Saturday slates. What do you got here?
Yeah, I mean this is the first of two just going to be all out. Brawls games wise on this slate. This is the grown man's matchup, right? Tennessee and A&M, 2 top 5 defenses, 2 of the slowest tempos in the SEC, 2 teams that force you to shoot a ton over the top. It's interesting. A&M took a bunch of money because KenPom has Tennessee -2, but Tennessee sub 20% from 3 on the road in SEC play. A&M is like mid 20s, 26% from 3 at home in SEC. So it's probably going to come down to game wise who hits their shots. I think if you wanted to take A&M, you needed the early number. I don't think there's any value on the -2.5. In fact, it's almost starting to get to the point where if it gets outside of possession, I could be tempted to see some Tennessee. But DFS-wise, really tough game environment. The Akpara foot situation, you never like hearing a foot with a big man. But yeah, not going to be something that you're going to be pulling a ton of plays from. But there's some one-offs that you might be able to get to in this game DFS-wise.
Yeah, Wade Taylor sitting around 7K still at home here, I think is a decent option, at least for tournaments. He's our best projected guy in the game. Zurich Phelps for tournaments, he's still hovering around that mid 6K range. The Akpar thing, I was kind of hoping he'd be ruled out, play some Cade Phillips or something like that. But and we might be a bit high on his minutes with that foot here, Gav. I'll probably give a couple of his minutes over to Cade Phillips before lock. But yeah, like you said, not much stands out here. Betting wise, I think this is one that we were on opposite sides. Like if it does get outside of possession, I think I'm going to fire Tennessee plus 3.5 or something if that ends up popping. But yeah, DFS wise, I don't see much here outside of, like I said, Wade Taylor, Phelps. Anything else for you in this game? Ziegler's up to 9.4 now. We kind of missed the boat there, when he was priced down for a little bit.
Yeah, Lanier's, almost 8K. I mean, if this was at home at 7.8, it'd be a little bit different, but, he just hasn't been, as hot as he was in the non-con down the stretch. Milicic in terms of He is a 3-point shooter against the A&M shell, which is really going to be useful. But his path rebounding wise is going to be tough. There's a little bit of extra block upside because A&M, when they're not just chucking up a bunch of mid-range contested crap, does hunt the rim a fair bit. So I don't love them. If you wanted to play them, sure, I probably would need to play over 20 lineups to get to those kind of guys. But what about even a solo Washington? Fouled his ass off last game, but he's going to be a key defensive piece. Is probably the guy that runs around with Lanier a fair bit. So yeah, it's just two really tough defenses. So it's probably max one. The fifth guard spot for A&M between Obaseki, Wilcher, Hayden Hefner, Jace Carter, just total mess, crapshoot game to game. So don't really want to participate in that. Meshack's not a shooter, so don't really want that matchup, even if he does kind of get to the mid-20s. But, not a ton more to add to that one.
Yeah, I've kind of thrown my hands up at that final A&M piece. If you see here, I just gave them all 12 to 14 minutes just so they don't pop at all. That's all I had here. I do like the max one rule in this game, especially at these price tags. It's not like we're getting any screaming values on this guy, on these guys here. All right, up next, the highest total on the slate, Oregon at Wisconsin. I didn't see any news here. At least going into the slate, we don't have much news yet that we're waiting on. As what happens on Saturdays, things can pop out of nowhere. So keep an eye out for that. But what do you think about this game stylistically overall? Wisconsin's just been a piss missile offensively. Kind of wanted to take the over until I saw it was already 155. What do you think here?
Yeah, that's right at the Ken Pom total. I mean, Wisconsin is getting a ton of national love off the waxing that they gave Purdue in Mackey.
Yeah.
If you don't have bigger bodied wings to slow down Blackwell and Tanji, they're gonna tear you apart off the bounce at the rim. And Oregon is a defense that will certainly allow that. It's a bit of a rim funnel when they're not kind of in their Dana Altman matchup zone stuff. Mm-hmm. Oregon 1-4-1 ATS in their last 6 conference road games. They had the close cover at Michigan was their only cover so far this year. Haven't been very, very good. So yeah, I kind of lean Wisconsin. I don't know if this is really the spot I want to play against some of the national steam and narrative, especially when Wisconsin's going to hunt Oregon and pick and roll. Oregon, when they're not in their zones, gets hunted and pick and roll. Teams trying to get Biddle to move his feet in space, get on a tough mismatch. And Wisconsin's the top 25 pick and roll efficiency offense in the country. So yeah, lot sets up well for here to score points. Much better DFS environment. Probably about almost a 30-point difference between first game and this one.
Yeah, and I kind of like the points. I kind of like the over. We've been playing some Wisconsin overs. I know you were early on that. So best plays in this game are probably Crowell and Blackwell. I would say both coming off awesome games. Crowell, I mean, man, that was a blast from the past the other night, wasn't it? He was just dominant in that game. Good to see him play well. And yeah, these guys got priced up a little bit, but I still see some meat on the bone for both of those guys. What do you think about Crowell, Blackwell, and then anything else on the Wisconsin side?
Yeah, I think Blackwell is probably a top 5 play on the slate, top 3 to 5 play. Just going to get great minutes, good peripherals for a guard, great shot share at home against a soft defense. I'd say Crowell is a little bit more GPP. If you're going to leverage off the Blackwell ownership, you can play Crowell. You can play both of them. I don't think there's any issue with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
On the other side, you typically don't want to play bigs against the Wisconsin wall up, especially in Madison. But Biddle can step out. But with the price getting to 8.6 and him kind of having a 30-minute upside cap, I think it's just really tough in this spot. He grabbed his double against Iowa. Owen Freeman less Iowa, mind you, and Oregon beat him barely by 2. He grabbed his double on the last possession of the game. So
yeah, I remember that.
Ran a little bit hot there. Will put up the blocks, but yeah, I think the discussion starts really with Crowell, Blackwell. Shellstat has just been absolutely flamethrowing shooting wise this year, but off the 0-7, 0-5 from 3 game against Iowa, decent bounce back spot. No real issue kind of with, who's on the ball, Wisconsin. So he's kind of an interesting GPP mix in. And then, Bartholomew, if you want to play a 5-3 Bartholomew with, 30-ish minute floor median, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Totally fine with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's played 30 plus in 5 out of the last 6. I think the only time I used him, Gav, was the Rutgers game where he played 25 out of nowhere. So, yeah, I don't mind Bartholomew. We have a good projection on him here. It's just he's so hot and cold, right? Kind of tough to trust for a main lineup. I mean, all you kind of have to do is look through his box scores on DK to see how hot and cold he is. I kind of like TJ Bamba here, Gav. I wish he was a bit cheaper, but like we've been saying on him, and like we were talking about when we were in Vegas or when they were there, he is such a streaky player, and when he gets hot, that's kind of when we want to target him. I don't usually love stuff like that, but with TJ Bamba, it kind of feels real, and that's when he earns more minutes too. What do you think about him here?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, the 2 games in Vegas and San Diego State and A&M were his 2 highest fantasy output games of the entire year. It's only gone over 30 a couple times, and it's not an ideal matchup against Wisconsin, but pretty good game environment. I would say if you're playing Bamba, it's probably really more of a game stack situation. I don't really see myself getting to a ton of one-off 7.5K Bamba, just with how low the floor can be and the fact that literally the highest he scored fantasy-wise all year is 35, 36. So there's guys at mid-7s that potentially have 40 upside. I don't think he's one of them. I really haven't been playing him much at all this year, to be honest. So don't think this is really a spot that I go to him.
Yeah, no, I was just seeing his minutes kind of creep from the mid to high 20s to the low 30s. So
yeah, it's kind of hard to tell between him, Shelstad, and Bartholomew. Like, who's going to be the one who's getting the most shot share, who's going to play the 34-minute role that game versus 28. So
right,
just a little bit uncertainty. Going all the way down. What about like a Kwame Evans at 3.8? If we have issues with Biddle, and Kwame Evans got 18, almost 19 DK in 3 of his last 4.
Yeah.
I don't mind that as a GPP mix in, but it's also like we don't really need a ton of these budget guys because there's not a ton of great studs. So
yeah,
just kind of take that with a grain of salt. I think he's in play. If you want to play 5K Brandon Angel, sure.
Yeah. We have a special guest joining us here for a sec. What's up, Kurt?
Work is really slow, so I just figured I'd come hang out.
Yeah,
I'm not going to have any takes or anything. I'm just going to chill and give a random fucking shout out to some scrub.
Well,
mid-tier slate. So far, it feels like a mid-tier build kind of day, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's weird because we don't have Broom, we don't have Flag, we don't have a lot of these national studs on the slate. Let's go next game here.
Hold on, Steve, I'm going to pop out and pop back in. So let me back in after you do the explanation of this one.
Okay, we'll do. We got Florida State, Louisville here. Another big total, 154.5 tote here. Kurt, Louisville laying 13.5. They've been great all conference play. We were talking about how weird the slate is. Our best projection point per dollar above 8K is Chucky Hepburn, Kurt. A guy that I haven't played much of or any of this year, but man, this is a really good spot for him overall. It's a good spot for Louisville overall to score a bunch of points here. Gavin, I was just talking about the high total in this game, and Louisville, not a team that we played a ton of in DFS, but they're one of the only teams on this slate that has like condensed minutes on their studs.
Yeah, with a good team total.
Yeah.
Part of the reason the total was so high was his first game was 90-76 in Tallahassee, which you'll see is basically also the spread this game at Louisville. So in that game, Louisville shot 52% from 3 on 29 attempts. Like 15 to 29 is insane. Florida State, like as bad of a 3-point shooting team as they are, they shot 40% from 3 in the game. So
wow.
I think it's really tough to recreate kind of the high efficiency mega total that we got in the first one. Florida State rebounded with the Miami rivalry home win, after they just got completely thrashed by Clemson. But, Louisville's second best on both sides of the ball in the ACC, behind that one Duke team. So, yeah, they have all the tools to really open this wide, for Florida State. I don't know how locked in this team is kind of after the Miami win with Leonard Hamilton stepping down after the year. This is the second and third fastest tempos in the ACC. So, yeah, much better DFS spot. I was coming into the slate today, like getting ready I can't wait to tell Steve that I kind of like Chucky Hepburn in this spot, maybe for the first time all year. And sure enough, he texted me last night. He's like, I think Chucky's in play. And I was just saying, wow, that's where we're at with this slate, huh?
I think he's more than in play. I think he might be like the best play on this slate. Seemingly back to full health after he had that little scare, Gav. I think there's no concern there. Do you have any concern with that? Like, I've got him at full minutes here.
Maybe in the sense that, like, if Louisville is hot from three, I mean, they could run Florida State out, and then maybe he doesn't get pushed to 35, 36. Maybe it's more like 29, 30. But yeah, it makes it easy when Terrence Edwards is more expensive than him. You're not playing that.
Yeah.
I prefer him to Jameer Watkins. Like, I think Chucky could easily threaten
the tournaments too.
Yeah. And I'm not playing Rain Smith, Malik Ewan. Oh my God.
Fuck him, bro.
Was that last Saturday when
yes.
we just got rugged on Ewan? I mean,
we got rugged a couple times on him.
Full strength Florida State is just going to be a bit wonky, right, Kurt? Like,
it's horrible.
They can hot hand this thing, especially in this front court. Gavin, I think Bull Bowen back at full minutes is interesting. I'm just not going to touch this Florida State team on a main lineup, but like I think Bull Bowen's probably my favorite bring back, him and Watkins. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Bowen's fine. He actually, I wonder if he picks up decent ownership. Because any guy that's owned on Florida State, I'm just apt to not really play just with the rug pull potential. They can do it to Malik Ewan. They can do it to just about anybody not named Jameer Watkins on this team. So, yeah, I see what you're saying in terms of not wanting to play them. But, like, what about James Scott, sub 6K?
Bring him up.
I have a gross take on this. I mean,
shocker. What do you got?
All right, so given the context of the slate with how bad value and stuff, and I'm also talking from a perspective of 20 max, I'm going to actually mix in, not together, obviously, but some Troy and Waterman. Just because there's like a value, I could see one just getting enough.
Well, the issue, Kurt, is that we do have guys down low who project well, who we're going to play, like who we know we're going to play minutes. We haven't gotten to him yet. I think James Scott is super interesting, though.
I see. Yeah, no, I see. Oh, God. Oh, my God. There's one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still. Well, I mean, it's 20 max GPP, so I will be taking shots on it. Still,
yeah. I'm fine with Terrari. I don't know, but maybe Waterman has a path to more minutes because FSC is a little bit bigger of a team, and they can get away with playing more Waterman. But yeah,
I don't think anyone should listen to that if you're not doing 20 max. Just for FYI.
Yeah, Gav, tell us about James Scott here.
About who?
James Scott.
I mean, yeah, he's been pretty efficient. I think he has a couple double-doubles on the year. Multiple outings with 8 to 10 boards. The hot streak he had was kind of early to mid-January when Waterman was out. Waterman came back. Minutes have been up and down. He fouled his ass off against Miami, or fouled against NC State. He's had a couple foul games. The risk is there, but I mean, yeah, there's definite upside at 5'7", with the team total that Louisville has. I guess Traore. I don't know. I mean, the thing about a lot of
go there. Honestly.
No, the thing about the budget guys is they're in the worst possible game environment in college basketball. So, do you really want to play one or two of them, or do you want to go try to gamble with somebody else down low? So I think that's the only reason you get to Traore.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of a poor game environment, let's go to TCU at Cincinnati. Cincinnati minus 7.5 here, 132.5 total, as we normally see with both TCU and Cincinnati games at low totals. The news here, Lukosius missed on Wednesday, questionable again here. Gav, I couldn't find anything on him. I have him projected out for now, which is what's making Josh Reed pop. He's the guy who started for Lukosius last game. Played good minutes, played mid to high 20s minutes. We have him for 27 here. One of the better values on the slate. I like that he's at home, but obviously tied to Lukosius being out. What do you think about this game overall? 7.5 seems like a lot of points here.
Yeah, but I also kind of want to bet Cincy. I mean, TCU has won 3 straight, including the huge Texas Tech home win, and it all started with the win at Oak State when you saw the shot that Vashawn Alette hit to win the game against Oak State. You know, that started the 3-game win streak. Cincy's kind of getting a little bit better. You know, these two teams are top 30 nationally in defense, but they're the 10th and 11th best defenses in the Big 12, which is kind of crazy.
That's insane.
2 putrid offenses. We know that. Both teams are huge paper tigers, and both are outside the top 300 and away from home. So there's a big boost to the home team in this spot, being Cincinnati. TCU is a rim reliant offense, top 30 frequency. Since he's an elite rim defense on a point per possession basis. So I think it kind of sets up well for Cincy. I was kind of hoping some more money would come in on TCU. Maybe it does by a tip, but Wes Miller was referencing like CMOS. I couldn't tell if he was being literal or if he was being figurative when he said got hit by a truck or got hit by a car and is playing through it.
That was last year. Yeah, I watched the whole press conference. Apparently that happened during last season and they never told us.
The figures with college reporting. So it didn't sound great for CMS's return. And you know, I'd much rather prefer a Josh Reed at home against the TCU than like some of the Iowa State guys at the Fertitta Center. So yeah, he's fine. I had Skillings as a GPP option. He actually, you know, did well in 21 minutes. He was like a one point or 1 fantasy point per minute guy, but didn't start because God knows you have to start Josh Reed. But that's a whole nother discussion for another time.
Yeah. What about the more expensive guys here? I say expensive, but they're not. They're kind of priced down, especially guys like Dylan Mitchell, Jizzle James, Day Thomas, who are all going to get more usage. And I think like just more minutes clarity without Lukosius in there. We have them all for 30 plus minutes here. Not the best game total, but like Jizzle James' usage without Lukosius is like 37%.
Yeah, he took 1 billion shots last game. He just didn't make any of them. You know, he took 20 shots, scored 21 fantasy points. I think Tanji scored like 30 real points off 15 shots against Purdue or something like that. You know, so just polar opposite difference. But yeah, I mean, Cincy, when they're going to be playing drop coverage, Jizzle and Day are going to have, you know, their fair share of mid-range shots to hunt. TCU's not really that, but they, you know, we saw the resurgence of Uday come back, get a double-double against Texas Tech. I'd imagine they have to play him here, you know, since he's a pretty big front line. So, you know, I
don't get a warm and fuzzy on any of the TCU guys, honestly.
I think it's Jamie Dixon just doing a bunch of shuffling, you know, kind of whatever's worked the last 3 games. So, you know, you could even see like some Chase Posey. TCU's a little worrisome on the road against a decent defense in Cincy.
Do you have a favorite of the top 4 from Cincy? James, Mitchell, Thomas, Bandego?
Probably Day.
Yeah, I think mine's James, despite the price difference. Just because, like, man, especially on this slate, right, Gav? Like, I don't think that we're going to have many guys who totally nuke. And you've got a guy at 7K who might take 20, 25 shots. So I think I'm going to lean into the bounce back for James. We have a good projection on him here. I know Captain was digging into the non-Lukosius usage stuff. So that's all I've got here. I'm not really interested in anything on TCU side. I guess you could mix in Uday. Kurt, do you like anything here?
I had something pop in for work, but not really. I think, like you said, if Lukosius is out, then we can start kind of like looking into it even more. But yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving. We've got the 1 p.m. window now. We got 2 games here. Let's start with Mississippi State at Oklahoma. Mississippi State laying 3.5 on the road here, Gav. We were talking about this game yesterday. 2 teams that just can't get out of their own way right now. A 149.5 total, though. This surprised me a little bit. This is the 3rd highest total on the slate. What do you got here?
Yeah, I mean, OU. I mean, where are they at? 5 straight losses. They've been run out of the gym in 4 of them, and the 5th of those losses was just the LSU late game utter collapse. Mississippi State backed up the rivalry sweep against Ole Miss. going on the road last Saturday, with the resounding win against very hot Texas A&M during the week. Mississippi State offense sets up pretty well to schematically to exploit OU. So yeah, I tend to agree with the money coming in on Mississippi State. I kind of wish I would have taken them just at the 1.5 or whatever it was, but
right.
Yeah, it's still hard to gauge how dead some of these teams are coming down the stretch. But I mean, OU is like case in point for teams facing that.
Yeah, which is what makes me nervous on the minutes projections, Gab, because we've seen them kind of lean more towards I would say a new minutes mix, like new roles kind of, Bryson Goodine's down to 4-1. We got him at 26 minutes. I think there might be some rug pull potential there. So I kind of want your thoughts on that. Like him and Duke Miles both project well just because the price tags are so low because his team's been so bad. But in this game total at home, they're going to project well. Do you have any read on that? Obviously, Fears and Jalen Moore are going to play big minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Miles and Goudin are aptly suited to beat the no middle. They're two of the more efficient 3-point guys on OU. So yeah, I don't know if you want to play 5.2 Duke Miles, there definitely is rug pull potential. This guard rotation, anyone not named Fears can get a little bit squirrely. So we've seen Goudin foul him twice in 3 minutes in first halves and be benched. Gets a little bit all over the place. So yeah, it sets up well for a couple guys. This is not the part where I play like a Glenn Taylor. If Kobe Elvis had more minutes, he's a really high volume 3-point guy who's 0 for his last 9 in the last 4 games. So I think this is kind of a one-off GPP mix-in for some of these budget guys on the OU side. That's really where I'm at least on the OU.
Yeah, Caleb, anyone that's betting Oklahoma is just doing the desperation home team bit. I don't think anyone is actually capping them to be better than Mississippi State in this spot. What about Fears here, 7-6? I think on this specific slate with this total, I think he's a good play. Just because I don't know, he seems safe at home in this total, and I don't really want to fuck around with these cheap guys. So I like Fears. I like Jalen Moore. I assume pretty tough matchup for Moore here, though, going up against that front court. Do you have any opinions between those two? They're basically the same price. And then anything on the Mississippi State side here?
Yeah, Fears is probably a little bit safer. Minute floor wise, shot volume wise. Moore can shoot from 3 a little bit, but it's not really like an ideal matchup for him. Yeah. And I've been trying to make him work on a couple of slates coming into this and just hadn't really been there. So, if he scores 20 real, sure, he's going to get there. The rebounding has kind of fallen off, at least over the last couple weeks. So that's a little bit of the worry. Mississippi State, pretty decent rebounding team. So I'd say Fears more the cash play, more the GPP one.
Yeah, any Cam Matthews for you here? I've tried to, speaking of trying to make guys work, I feel like I've caught all his foul/floor games. Just kind of tough for me to click a 7K guy who legit might take 1 or 2 shots in the game. Like he's all peripherals and stocks, but he projects well, and it's a good total. Any Cam Matthews love here before we move on?
Oh, you can get a little squirrely with the ball, so maybe he's got some stock upside. I mean, yeah, not really a click for me. I'm probably out. 7-1.
I think Matt is the perfect Cam Matthews projects well response. I think he's a guy that you can mix in depending on how many lineups you're playing.
We saw Kugel start the last 2 games. He fouled last game. Claudel Harris came in, went 4 of 8 from 3, so he was the one who went over 20 minutes. It can get a little bit squishy in terms of the minute allocation for these kind of ancillary Mississippi State guys, especially Sean Jones, Claudel Harris, Riley Kugel. They're kind of like more expensive versions of the A&M guys who get a little bit more minutes. But they're the non Josh Hubbards, they're the non Cam Matthews. So it's going to be semi hot hand, semi rotational outside of those guys.
Yep. Kurt, any words here before we move on?
Nope. Cam Matthews kind of fits that mid-tier build, so that's the only reason I would.
Yeah, good floor on him at least.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to the other game in this 1 o'clock Eastern window. West Virginia at Texas Tech. Texas Tech laying 11.5 here. Texas Tech, a team that we were really high on coming to the year. It's good to see them gain some momentum as we head towards March. 135.5 total here, so on the lower end, but actually not the lowest on this kind of greasy slate. Yeah, what do you have for us here? West Virginia games tend to crawl a bit.
Yeah, and it's not a great. I mean, West Virginia's a really good defense. Texas Tech just had the loss at TCU. They allowed over 1 point per possession to the third worst Big 12 offense. West Virginia off one of the most mind-bending non-covers versus Cincy I've ever seen.
Couldn't believe it.
When Cincy saw the game, so like back-to-back inbound passes, hit back-to-back threes. But Texas Tech wants to run West Virginia one of the lowest defensive transition rates. It's a super deep drop coverage, so they really limit the catch and shoot opportunities where Texas Tech thrives. I kind of thought initially, like, man, double digits is a lot to be laying in this game. But then you look back, like, most of West Virginia's losses are by double digits. Even as a good defensive team that plays slow, condenses the possession count of the game. So I get it. Nothing really on the side, but I think a couple spots DFS-wise we can look at.
Yeah, the update isn't in here yet. I won't mention what it is, but for our subscribers, there's a minutes update coming to Texas Tech here. 10-4 JT Toppin. Gav, we talked about not having, the brooms or the flags, but JT Toppin has been basically that, just with less minutes certainty, at least the rates. It's tough to nail down how much he's going to play. He does foul sometimes. And obviously he's had a roller coaster season, but on a slate where we don't have guys who are going to break it, I think JT Toppin is the one who could obviously put up that 50 plus if things break his way. Thoughts on him here? And then what else do you like in this game?
Yeah, you can definitely play JT Toppin. He fouled last game, I think played 11 first half minutes last game. Fouled 2 times, and then fouled literally a minute into the second half. So had 3 and had to sit for a while. The game before was the Oak State blowout, where he had a billion fantasy points in only 26 minutes. So, yeah, you want to play 10-4 Toppin at home. I got no issue with it whatsoever, especially on the slate lacking studs, like you mentioned. He's squarely in plays. One of the better spend ups if he can find the value to do it. Hansberry's like an undersized 5, really. Eduardo Andre is a total rag. So, yeah, the matchup is pretty good for him personally in this one.
What about Darian Williams? We had the call on him on, I guess it was Tuesday. Went back to max minutes, had an awesome game. Actually left a lot of fantasy points out there too. I thought he could have gone for even more. I think he's probably the best play in this game overall. Definitely the safest. Thoughts on him? And then any other looks in this game? I keep waiting for Javon Small to fall to a price where he's actually playable, but he's just been 9,500 the entire season.
Yeah, and he got banged up last game too. I think he went to the tunnel for a couple minutes and still played 36. So, I typically look at him as like a contrarian GPP spend. There's going to be games where he has 30 real. There's going to be games where he has 10 assists and 5 steals. He does have pretty good upside, but not the greatest matchup. I mean, Tech has had trouble guarding, I'd say, more. He's not the biggest guy, but Texas Tech has had their issues guarding guards last couple games. So, yeah, Javon Small, GPP contrarian spend up. Yeah, Williams is fine. He's not really kind of, I'd say, as necessary against this. This is going to be more like Elijah Hawkins, I think, playing a lot of in the ball screen game. But, Williams is a high frequency mid-range guy. West Virginia funnels you into the mid-range. I think he's like an 85th percentile mid-range frequency. So maybe he gets some looks there, but not really high quality looks. I think probably out for me on this spot at nearly 8K.
Yeah, I think I'm more into Williams than you are. I might, depending on how much we end up liking the cheap guys, I might want to get to Toppin here. Just like a raw points type of thing on what's going to be a lower scoring slate overall because of these totals. We have 27 minutes here for now. That's going to be updated before lock. anything down low, like I don't really mess around with the Powells, the O'Conneys of the world.
What's the projection on O'Conney?
We have 31 minutes and 19 DK, 3.8x.
Man, I think he's got more upside than that. He had 3, double-digit shot volume games before the last Cincy game. Now, I don't love that he kind of got rugged a little bit and only played 24 minutes.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell if that's indicative of, the go-forward rotation. But, if he gets back into the low to mid-30s at 5.1K in a pretty good pace environment, or I guess in a game that they'll get paced up by Texas Tech a little bit.
We do have his, we have an upside column here. His upside is higher than the guys in his range.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just tough to get him to have a good median projection with this 62 team total.
Mm-hmm.
Any words here, Kurt? You playing some top end, any Hawkins or Darian Williams?
No, I don't really like this game besides like Williams and some top end lineups.
It's the third highest total on the slate. It's just a weird slate.
I'm gonna let I don't think it's gonna
Sorry.
hit my hand builds, but this is Saber's gonna take care of this game for me. So
all right, let's go to a game that I think we're gonna have to get right on the slate. It's the first one of the 2:00 window. Penn State at Minnesota. Gav, mini laying 2.5 here, 142.5 tote. So fourth highest on the slate.
Yeah, it's 2 of the 4 worst defenses in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State's obviously going to pace up Minnesota, with Minnesota being at home. 8 of Penn State's last 9 games have been sub 70 possessions. This one projects for 65. Like, I was thinking maybe under in this one, but man, you're gonna this could be a decent efficiency spot. I think it helps Minnesota that they just faced a hard hedge defense against UCLA last game, and they're going to face the slightly more aggressive version of that now at home against the Penn State team that's just been circling the drain the back half of conference play. That you get Yannick Kuhn and Niederhauser back, great, that helps. But Minnesota's playing well. They just swept UCLA and SC on the road. I bet you they're the only team in the Big Ten that's done that this year.
I think you fell asleep for the end of the UCLA game. That was nutty. They
went on. I turned the game off because they were down 29-12 in the first half, and I look and they won the game the next day. It was nuts. Dawson had his 50. Really, really good Minnesota spot here. So yeah, probably going to need some spots here. Good total on the slate. Unfortunately, that we're going to have to get this game right, but here we are.
Yeah. So you mentioned getting Minnesota right. The good thing about this team is we know exactly who's going to play. We got 4 guys at 34 plus minutes. Gav, Dawson Garcia 10K is probably the safest click on the entire slate if you want to spend 10K on him. He's going to play the whole game. Patterson, Femi's going to play, and Mike Mitchell minutes have been a bit wonky, but I think he's kind of solidified his role. 34 minutes for under 5K Mike Mitchell at home against a pace up in Penn State is something I'm super interested in. Thoughts on these guys? I mean, we're probably playing multiple Gophers in this game.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to those guys. Yeah, like Femi and Mike Mitchell are in good spots. Patterson's probably going to be like the GPP option, the lower owned guy amongst them.
Yeah. I'm laughing. Someone said Dawson Garcia's frosted tips. Don't play him.
Yeah, it's fact check true. But God, yeah, sub 5K Mike Mitchell's pretty wild. What about Isaac Asima? So he was playing like low 30s, mid 20s, and then fouled 4 times in 7 minutes against UCLA. I think that's a pretty interesting GPP option.
We have him for 21 minutes here. I was conservative there. I think he's got upside for mid to high 20s. I think he's a really good tournament play at 4-1. You get a bit different, you play him over Mike Mitchell, who, as we both know, Mike Mitchell has definitely found floor games in conference. So I think that's definitely interesting. I'm probably playing at least 2 Minnesota here, if not 3, honestly. Just kind of leaning into the projections in a great spot on a slate where we don't really have many upside spots. Any Penn State guys for you here? I think YKN is a really good tournament play. Bring back. You just have to avoid the fouls. Minnesota isn't really a team that's going to draw a ton of fouls. They don't have crazy interior presences that draw foul. I mean, besides Garcia, no one else draws more than 4 fouls per 40. I guess you do have to worry about Garcia, but he's not, solely just, like a back to the basket guy. He's taken over 100 threes this year. So thoughts on him? Any Ace Baldwin? I haven't been tracking the usage. I know we talked last weekend about how his usage was down, and then he went out and had like 7 steals on that Saturday slate.
Yeah, he's had 6 steals in back-to-back games. That's going to help your DFS output. But yeah, the usage has still kind of cratered for Ace. Like we said last week, if he can't do it against Washington at home in this spot, then we might just have to put a bullet in him out back. But then he goes 4 of 8 from 3 with 6 steals. Yeah, that's going to help. So, does he get 6 steals here? I'd venture to say no. But yeah, now he's 9-2. Now he's on the road. So I'm going to be out on Ace on this slate. But
and a mega pace down for them.
And a huge pace down. Yeah, Dawson Garcia, when he struggled, has been against a lot of drop coverages. So like Illinois, when they limit his catch and shoot opportunities as a stretch, that's when his ceiling really gets capped. But Penn State's going to press, they're going to hard hedge, and he's going to be on the backside of a lot of those. So yeah, he's 10K. Certainly like him in this spot. Agree with YKN being a great tournament play. Conan Niederhauser.
DeLeon too, I think is interesting.
Yeah, if you want to play DeLeon. I thought it was a little bit better last slate that we played for the context, but now he's back to 29 and 31 minutes, double-digit scoring in both, and he's only 1 of 9 from 3 in those 2 games. So still a little bit upside there in the scoring. So yeah, if you want to play DeLeon, I think that's probably where the conversation ends, at least on the Penn State side.
Yep. Kurt, do you like anything from this game? This seems like a game that you'll probably have a rule or two for.
Yeah, MMA. I was going to say that actually, a rule of 2 Minnesota, because I think remember that was it last year when Dawson Garcia made like 8 threes against Nebraska. I would love for that to happen here because he's probably going to be my most exposed spend, and then Mike Mitchell would be second, and then kind of let Saber do the rest. But definitely want to prioritize those 2.
Yeah, Femi projecting for 5x scares me just because.
Yeah, Femi sneakily is a 4.0 fouls called per 40, so he's flirted with foul disaster more frequently than he probably should be as a guard. So there's opportunity for that.
Yeah, I think he's at least somewhat fragile just because of the fouls, but probably just going to lean into the projection, at least on a main lineup, and maybe get away from it. There is a $30 queue today, so I think, man, it's going to be interesting to see what wins that today, Gavin. It's going to be something odd. But I think in that, Gav, I'll just go up to Niederhauser, from Femi, just do stuff like that in the $30. Any last words here, Gav?
Nope.
All right. Wake at NC State. Wake laying 3.5 on the road here, 136.5 total. So another one under 140. I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 of the 10 games under a 140 total. This is one of them. And is this our first bet of the show? I think most of our bets are later in the day.
Yeah, I guess it might be. Jesus.
Yeah. What do you like here?
Yeah, I mean, NC State, they just took the ass whooping at the hands of a dead North Carolina team.
Yep.
They've lost 10 of their last 11. So, how much more do they have in the tank? Kind of similar to Oklahoma, back at home, circling the drains. How dead are they? That's really kind of what this comes down to, I think, game-wise. Wake has a full week's rest off that SMU win last Saturday, which definitely helps. And, they're kind of similar to A&M in their defensive principles. They switch a lot. They underscreen everything. So, they force a really high 3-point rate. NC State is like a 31.5% 3-point shooting team. So that doesn't worry you. Sets up pretty well for Wake. 2 bottom 30 rim and 3 rate offenses. Neither team can shoot. And the total is 5.5 points above the KenPom projection. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty decent underspot. NC State top 25 in mid-range and post-up frequency, and outside the top 300 on a points per possession basis in both sets. So there goes to show you how good of a coach Kevin Keatts is. Oh, we suck at something. let's just do it at exorbitant rates every game. So not a great game environment. If I like an under, then I'm think it could be a crawl. The NC State press, and then is going to slow down the Wake offense a lot, just in terms of how long it takes them to get their shots off. Yeah, I think this is a pretty ugly spot, but there are some interesting-ish DFS pieces, even with a crappy game environment.
Yeah, especially on the Wake side, just because of the condensed minutes. We know that Salas, Spillers, and Reed are going to play if they don't foul. Spillers, I think we were talking last week or so, Gav, not been as efficient in conference, maybe a bit of a, non-con hero type of player, but at 6'8", playing a ton against a very weak NC State defense. I mean, they're 115th at KenPom. They get beat up on the boards, especially the defensive glass, 322nd in defensive rebounding. I could see one of Spillers or Reed getting there here. What do you like DFS-wise?
Yeah, Spillers, he was elite at App State, smashing, mid-majors, so it's not too surprising that he did that in non-con, but there's been a little bit of a role change, too, where he's playing more of a roamer defensively and not playing fully underneath the basket. They kind of put Eft in there more frequently now, so I think there's kind of a couple things, that are pointing towards his kind of lower shot rate. He did get the 11 boards finally last game. It was the first time he was in double digits in over a month. What's the Hildreth issue? Do we know? The foot?
That's what I was wondering. So do we have any word on that?
I dug into this yesterday when I was doing the minutes for all 27 games today. This one seemed pretty clear that he's going to play. I've got him at 28 minutes here, so less than normal. He missed last game, and we saw, I believe, Juke Harris started for him and played well. So keep an eye on that, but I have him projected. I expect him to play. We've got him for less minutes and efficiency, as you can see here in the projections. But even him hindered at all, guys, that's going to boost guys like Spillers and Reed, the usage, the peripherals. Hildreth, whenever you play someone that's not him, Gav, always ends up having 8 rebounds fall to him. So anything less than 100%, I think, is another notch in the belt of these other Wake guys.
Yeah, we saw even Friedrichsen get 30 minutes. I mean, the Whitey finally hit a 3-pointer, believe it or not. It was the first game he's had more than 1 3 in 3 months.
So dog the entire season.
He's terrible. And if you're not going to hit your threes as Friedrichsen, then you don't need to play. Juke Harris, a.k.a. Line Star's #1 value, Juke Harris. I guess that's obviously assuming the Hildreth injury. But, if Hildreth is out, then sure, you can play some Juke Harris. I also think that spot, kind of like, some of these other final guard lineup spots for different teams, can get a little bit hectic game to game. So you don't really know kind of exactly what you're going to get there. Tyler has had games where, he's back-to-back 4-foul games. There's ways that those guards can get there. What about a 5.6K Marcus Hill?
So I don't know what's going on with his minutes. I think it might be a bit of what you're talking about, seasons in the toilet. They want to see some Trey Parker. They want to see some, Paul McNeil.
Yeah, well, his 17 is 22 minutes were games that they got their absolute doors blown off by UNC and Louisville.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, I don't know if it's because of the blowout or, because they're getting their asses kicked. They want to see some Paul McNeil. They want to see these other guys. So I do think that there is minutes downside there, but I've already taken that into account in projections. We have him at 28 instead of his normal 30.
Yeah, that's okay.
33. So there's definite minutes upside with him. I don't even want to talk about Jaden Taylor after what he did to us, and then the game after. Was that the guy that I said no? It was Blue Kane. I said, do not pull up his box scores.
Yep.
Oh my God! The same thing happened with Jaden Taylor. If you don't know what we're talking about, go ahead and pull up his box scores. I bet you can figure it out. I kind of want to just avoid the NC State situation entirely, at least on a main lineup. I do think the Hill thing is interesting. I think Dontrez Styles is interesting for tournaments. But that's all I have here. Do you have anything else, Gav?
I don't think so.
Kurt, any last words on this one?
I was really wanting to be aggressive with Wake. If we had any if we were 75% sure that Hildreth would miss, I was going to be aggressive with them. But with that news, it kind of makes it tough.
I'm pretty sure that he's at least going to play in some fashion.
Oh well.
All right, let's go to perhaps the best real life game of the day. Well, it was going to be before the news. Iowa State at Houston. We got the news, I don't know, right around happy hour time yesterday, Gav, that Iowa State's going to be without Curtis Jones, who's sick, and Keshawn Gilbert, who is out for some reason. I was talking with Jordan Majeski beforehand. He said mental reset, Gavin, which is interesting as you go into the biggest game of the season that Iowa State needs if they want to win the Big 12. But because those two guys are out, we're seeing Houston, it's out to 12.5, 13, and a 130.5 total here. What are your thoughts on this one? And did you know about the mental reset?
No, that is the most 2025 Zoomer shit I've ever heard. I need a mental reset. Bitch, you're in the middle of the fucking conference run with your team in the top 3 of the Big 12. What are we doing?
Yeah.
It says muscle strain, so maybe it's that. But yeah, total grown man's dogfight here. This is the other kind of bar brawl we have along with the A&M Tennessee game. Yeah, Iowa State without their 2 main scoring guards, the best weak side shooter, the best kind of ball handler initiator versus the just crazy Houston frenetic defense on the road. Yeah, it does not set up well. That's why the line has crashed almost 6 points basically.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something on Houston. So if you take their numbers from the beginning of conference play until Sharp went down, their Bar Torvik ranking is higher, not significantly, but materially higher than Auburn's on a season-long basis, who has maybe the best resume we have ever seen a team in college basketball have at this point of the year.
Yeah, Auburn's got 14 Q1 wins.
It's stupid.
No one else has more than 8.
And Houston's Bar Torvik rating was higher. So I think it goes to show you that when they do have their full complement of guys, this is an elite 3-point shooting team with Cryer, with Sharp, Uzan can shoot, Terrence Arsenault a little bit. This team is lethal, right? Because the defense is going to travel, it's going to play every game. So just any offensive efficiency that they get is going to be really good. And obviously Iowa State, they needed those 2 guards really in this spot to kind of take some of the pressure, off from the Houston defense. But now it's just going to be Lipsy. Lipsy still may not be healthy. I think that he still sounds like he's dealing with some thumb issue. And now he's basically by himself with a bunch of blind kids and Josh Jefferson and Milan Momcilovic.
Yeah, I actually this is the toughest minutes to do of the entire day because we just don't know what they're going to do, right, Gav? I think Heisey's going to start here. You had mentioned Watson. The issue obviously is that you're clicking a team that might score 48 points at Houston. So Heisey, Momcilovic are going to project well just because of the minutes floor. Lipsy, I don't know how they take him off the court in this game, Gav. I just gave him 40 minutes. They just don't have that many guards. The guys that are out were playing 35 and 28, 30 minutes. So there's a lot of usage. There's a lot of minutes to be eaten up here. It's just a bit of a crapshoot with what they're going to do. I was talking with Majeski this morning. He thinks it's a Josh Jefferson game. So I bumped him a bit. The issue is he's 8-3 on the road at Houston. Do you have any read on what they're going to do lineup-wise, minutes-wise? I know we talked a bit beforehand. I think what we currently have is my best guess.
Yeah, I think they probably have Heisey start in the spot, a little more of a veteran. I think Watson's a true frosh. But, Heisey was all right at Northern Iowa. He handled the ball a decent bit. So, they probably give him the first crack. But, they're going to need Watson at some point in this game. This kind of feels like if you're going to give Keshawn Gilbert the mental reset, quote unquote, you're basically, heading into the game thinking you're going to lose, just run your freshman out there. He had a really good game against, was it Arizona in that spot?
Yeah.
He's had some blowups. He's listed at guard, but I want to say he's 6'6" or 6'7", maybe. He's a big kid. So yeah, I think he's a really interesting, GPP guy that, he might come in 150 ownership of Heisey. It's only a $500 discount. I wish it was a little bit more, and But it's just tough. Like you said, they may not score 50. I took the under 133. Like the line shot out towards Houston, but the total didn't budge. And Iowa State without their guys, so I took an under there. And then Momcilovic 4-5, probably a cash lock. Main line viable, great play. He's the guy now that they're going to need as the weak side shooter.
Yeah, I mean, he could take a dozen threes in this game. Anything on the Houston side, we've seen them condense their minutes. Classic Houston, they'll condense in closer games and they'll use more Wilson and, the bench in blowouts. The issue is now this is a potential blowout.
Yeah, they just haven't really been pushed other than the Arizona game is close. Like Baylor, they led by double digits the whole way. Colorado, they kept at arm's distance the whole way. So yeah, it's how much do they need to really, push these guys? This is obviously a big game in that if you win this, I think they're ahead in the Big 12 standings by multiple games, so they can kind of stranglehold the conference a bit.
Yeah.
And
it seems like a Juwan game, personally.
It could be. It's not great against the no middle versus a guy like Jefferson that can really facilitate and pass out of it as the short roll kind of relief. So yeah, I mean, Tuller fouled his ass off. If you want to play Sharp at 5-1, he's finally had the big outburst last game, 4-7 versus ASU from 3, 17 points. So you can certainly go back to that.
Played him the game before where he was over, I think.
Yeah, he's only going to get healthier. And going to see plenty of threes against the Iowa State no middle. So
yep,
fine with Sharp. I'm fine with Roberts. I mean, he's under 7K. The shot volume has been way better this year, but hasn't had more than 6 boards in the last 4 games. That will change eventually. Is this game maybe, but yeah, I think he's in play, not a priority play.
Yeah, I more meant it just this game environment is going to be one where we see Juwan play well, and he's just kind of that junkyard dog type of player. Kurt, any last thoughts here before we get to our last game? We're kind of running long on time.
I really like Sharp. I'll be over on Sharp a lot.
Yeah, like Gavin said, he's only going to get healthier here. So I want to play him moving forward. All right, last game. Kind of annoying that they added this to the slate. 2:15 Eastern, Pitt at Notre Dame. Pitt land 1.5 when I last checked before we went live. 141.5 total. Gav, I think you have a bet on this game. What do you think?
I took Notre Dame at half against SMU live. That I think I lost by a bucket, 3.5 or something like that from the spread. They just got completely run out by SMU.
Yeah,
SMU was 1.4 points per possession in the game. They beat Notre Dame on the glass 43-20. I mean, just absolutely bludgeoned them inside. But Notre Dame at home again versus a Pitt team that's pretty dead, that's without their primary guard defender and Damian Dunn. Shrewsbury absolutely crashes out at his press conference. Then they just get absolutely boat raced by SMU the next game. Yep. So I mean, this might be my last foray with Notre Dame. I paid a 1.5 point tax, which I don't love, but Pitt's not going to exploit their inadequacies, lack of size inside. They don't really have a legit on-ball guy to slow down Burton. So Jalen Lowe has been interested in playing defense for a month, and so it's basically all on Ish Leggett. I don't even know if he guards him. So I think it's pretty decent Notre Dame spot. I took that.
I'm not 100% bought in that Lowe's fully healthy. I think they rushed him back, honestly.
It could be. He just kind of looks apathetic. He's just kind of disinterested out there, which makes sense given how shitty that team has been this year.
God, they've been a disappointment, especially after the hot start. I do think this is a good Burton spot. I think I might be light on his minutes. They've got 34 here. I think he's got upside for 30
40
plus.
He can play all 40.
Yeah. The issue is with Aloko back, it's just harder to give him those, 37 plus. Aloko did return last time. That's going to hurt everyone else besides Burton, specifically your Sir Mohammed's, your Shrewsbury's upside, and your Tay Davis minutes upside, just because Aloko's going to, we have him for 22. He could easily play 28 here, right?
He was playing 36, prior to the injury for a fair bit.
Yeah, so I think there's some ambiguity outside of Marcus Burton here on the Notre Dame side. I do like that Aloko's back for the bet. just a stronger team. You're playing less Sir Mohammeds, Knetzies, Ropers, all those losers. So I think Burton's the best play in the game. Honestly, he doesn't project that way, but that's my lean here. I hope people chase the Diaz-Graham minutes. He played more because Cam Corn just fouled crazily in that game. I'm not totally buying into GDG being a high 20s, 30 minutes guy. And now he's 5'3". So I really hope that people chase that. I think Corn's okay, but again, he's been 5'5" the entire season, Gav. So it's not like we're getting a discount here. I think it's Burton as the best play here. We have a good projection on low. I'm going to ask Cap to come down on that a bit. I just don't think he's a 1 fantasy point per minute guy right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I get that. I don't have a ton more to add. I mean, this is a game that Pitt can definitely get away with playing small. Like, they can play Corn at the 5 if they need to, like they have in spots against smaller teams. Notre Dame's not a team that worries you inside. So, yeah, I think that Diaz-Graham is really flimsy in this spot and kind of more hoping people chase it.
Yeah, Cummings has played 33 and 30 the last 2 minutes. I've got him for 23 minutes. I think that was a bit because of fouls, and I don't know. I'm not buying Cummings as a 30-plus minute guy. I think he gets a lot of ownership too, especially off the bench. They could just play other guys. They could play Delilah. They could play Content. Their season's dead. So these teams where it's going poorly, Gav, I don't have confidence in the minutes floor.
Yeah, there's just more inherent variance game to game, minute wise, with these dead teams.
Yeah. So, all right, Kurt, any last thoughts on this before we go to the slate wrap up?
Love the Burton bounce back game. The Burton bounce back game.
Yeah, I think Burton's a really good tournament play, specifically on this slate where he doesn't have to beat a Broom or a Flag, guys like that.
Yeah.
All right, last thoughts overall on the slate, Gav. And then do you have any other bets that you want to give the people?
I don't know if I got a ton in terms of kind of, added slate context. I think, with everybody's going to be playing the Iowa State value. I just think as you MME guys, I think there's just opportunities to not have to play these guys and get there with slightly more expensive pieces. So get into the 4K range. I almost wonder, can a Goodine get almost as many minutes as the Iowa State guys in a way better game environment with way more shooting upside? That's kind of how I would play this if I was an MME guy. A guy like an Asimo when everyone's going to play Mike Mitchell, stuff like that. So
we even have a good projection on Frank Mitchell here, at 4K.
Frank, yeah,
in that same game. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, other than that, I mean, I don't know. I have a bunch of bets.
I texted Gav last night because I hadn't put anything in yet. I was like, have you fired on anything yet? And he just responded yeah, I bet half the board.
I think I said a shit ton of bets. So I think my favorite might be this the Cal Stanford over. I like that. I like Colorado State with UNLV down Deaton Thomas, a couple late game DGen spots for you sickos.
Duke.
Yeah, Duke's now at a half-point discount, and Illinois is the Walking Dead. If you go read on some of my Twitter, you can basically look at how I kind of just quickly wrote up some of the games. You probably can guess what side I'm on.
Yep. Kurt, any last slate thoughts? Any rules that you're gonna have for MME guys?
I mean, why in the fuck did my first run? I just got 47% Braden Cummings. What the fuck?
He's cheap.
I mean, I got more than that. How much did I get? I got 75% Braden Cummings. Come on, dog.
I mean, we have him at 23 minutes, but yeah, you're gonna have to fix that because you do not want that. My last thoughts on the slate are I'm gonna be leaning into Minnesota. Be trying to get away from Iowa State value, just like Gavin. I think there's many viable pivots in the 3 and 4K ranges that we can attack. Just because I think there's some uncertainty in, their rotations, who they're going to play. And obviously they could just get absolutely shit kicked here. I like the Cincy guys as well. So it's kind of a weird slate, Gav. We're playing Minnesota, Cincy, and Oklahoma. So, it's a weird slate. For those who are members, I did minutes for all three slates. So we'll have projections for all three. Gavin and I will be in there all day posting lineups and cores and stuff. If you're not a member, just go to runpuresports.com, use code RPS15, and you get all of our content for all sports, or we have individual sport packages if you want to do that. I actually looked at the price for the college hoops only. It's pretty cheap. So go ahead and join us from now through the end of the year. You'll have Gavin and I the next couple of weeks. And then for conference tournament week, you get Kurt for a couple days holding down the fort while we go watch some games out in Vegas. So we'll be back here next Saturday. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. It's going to be an interesting slate to navigate. Make sure you're in the Discord if you are an RPS member. For Kurt, for Gav, we'll see you next time.